And we're live on the Going Digital, the Future of Going Digital panel. We have 5 really awesome people here. And we are ready to talk about this. And we're still waiting on Jim, which I just realized I'm not the 6th person. So Jim is struggling to get in at some point, and he will join us if he's able to. So before we start, we want to just talk about the fact that film festivals have had a unique challenge in 2020 of going digital. And I think a lot of people who are attending festivals don't really see that side of it. So this panel, this panel is not only going to talk about what it's been like for festival directors, publicists, for the industry people to navigate this unique set of challenges that the pandemic has created. Also, it's going to talk about what the future holds. So when things do go back to normal, have we entered a new era where things are never going to quite go back to the way they were? We're going to be discussing the various platforms, and also for the filmmakers watching, we're going to be talking about what film festivals can do in this forum, in this setting, to give you value. And yeah, so let's open it up and let's meet everybody. So Neil, can you start first? And Leslie, you weren't here. I said we're going to go clockwise on all the questions. All right.
So yeah, hi, I'm Neil Jeram-Croft, the director of the Manchester Film Festival. We just did our 7th edition online back in from the 11th to the 15th of March. So we've just had to go through the same process you guys are going through now and pivot to online. Yeah, that's us.
And I'm Caius Tenche. I'm the director of the Toronto Motorcycle Film Festival. We are now entering our 5th year. And last year, due to the pandemic, we had to shift to move completely virtually. So last year was our first year going virtual, and it ended up being a very positive experience.
Hello, I'm Marcin Sobczak. I'm owner and founder of This Way Publicity, known mostly for making Loving Vincent popular. And I'm consulted in a bunch of different film festivals going online. Besides that, I'm artistic director of the Thessaloniki Animation Festival nowadays. Hello, everybody.
I'm Candace Makowichuk. I'm the executive director of the Edmonton Short Film Festival. We're into our 9th year. We offered an online, actually a hybrid event, because we were able to have it last October in 2020. So theaters were still open at a very small capacity. But that was a very limited audience. Basically, just the filmmakers that we were screening were invited to that, and the general audience participated through an online platform. It was an interesting experience, to say the least, but lots of things learned, and I'm looking forward to the discussion we're going to have today.
Hi, everybody. My name is Leslie Vanderpool, and I'm the founder and executive director of the Bahamas International Film Festival. I wish you all were here, but thank you so much for allowing me to be on this panel. In January, we launched our first virtual experience with Filmocracy, and we had our drive-in experiences as well. And thank you again. I look forward to diving into the conversations.
Awesome. Okay, so I would like to start this with what was the biggest challenge of going virtual? So I'll share mine at the very end, because there are many that we're going through right now, but we'll open it up with Neil at Manchester.
Yeah, thanks. A lot of challenges in terms of going virtual. One, choosing the platform, as we've touched on. I think we all used different platforms. I was the same as Leslie. We ended up going with Filmocracy. Once we'd actually decided what platform to go on, they made it super easy to host virtually. I'm used to dealing with the filmmakers and trying to sort out DCPs to play in the cinema, but now it was trying to get them to send me a video in the right codec so it would work with the Filmocracy platform, which was something I really desperately enjoyed. And then we the main thing, I suppose the main challenge really was keeping the engagement of the filmmakers, keeping the engagement of the audience, trying to offer that experience that you get physically, where the filmmakers could get that sense of how their film was received by the audience without actually sitting and watching it with them. And we also just loads of decisions you have to make, which we wouldn't normally have to make. So deciding whether to have our screenings live or whether having them on demand, and how that was all going to work. We opted for having all of our screenings live, just because we felt like that gave it more of a community and a real and a sort of more immediate experience. And it also meant we could offer live Q&As after every screening, and we knew everyone in that Q&A would be coming across and they would have seen the films. So just trying to sort of replicate the buzz and the atmosphere of the festival online, I would say was probably the biggest of all the challenges, because the technical stuff was a pain, but reasonably easy to overcome, I hope.
Yeah, for me, I'm just going to echo a lot of what Neil just said. It's hard to point to just one main challenge. There were a lot. So we had zero experience with online festivals. So, identifying a platform, there's a lot of different options out there. So trying to understand even what the criteria are for selecting a platform. Most of them have a steep learning curve until you get used to the platform. So that was one part of it. Dealing with filmmakers and distributors, trying to understand what their reaction might be to moving their films online and how that might impact their festival run model. But the big thing, I guess, is exactly what Neil said, is trying to understand our audience and how they would take to watching movies online. So for me, the magic of the film festival is for all of us to be in the same space at the same time, sharing this moment. Like there's electricity in the air, I feel. And so how are we going to replicate that in an online forum to keep that energy, get that energy, have people tune in? That was, I think, the thing that I was stressing about the most.
Yeah, I will actually completely agree with you guys. Additionally, I would say from the technical point of view, from the team point of view, it was extremely difficult to recreate the magic of cinema, really, because we were like, we know we are in creative, ego-driven industry, all of us, so yeah, somehow maybe usually the collective was somewhere else on the Cannes Boulevard, where people meet each other after, but in fact, everyone was going like, yeah, I'm gonna make it, and now the I'm gonna making part seemed very lonely, and sharing it and being excited about going virtual seemed like an actual struggle for the team of the festival, because everyone was like sitting at home and there were lockdowns, and you connect with people that you most probably cannot even meet later, right? Because you invite guests, but where's the hospitality when it's online, right? So all these things felt like, I would say, I attended many red carpets from home, and it didn't really feel festive, because you still sit alone or with, even if you sit with your family, etc., and you dress up, to attend like now, like we dress up, or it's a special moment of your day to be a guest of the panel. And then I feel like, yeah, but I'm like actually sitting in an empty room. So my 4-year-old just don't jump inside of in the middle of the film festival now. So I think that was the struggle, though I find it really nice that pandemics was a time also to reflect on many things, and maybe sometimes to appreciate things that we've had before. And it felt like, like we all know, like going to Cannes market and our friends would go like, oh my God, why am I here? I'm so tired, and now everybody goes like, I want to be there. Why am I not there? Why it's not part of my year anymore? So I think that somehow pandemics made us realize, that we need each other more.
A lot of the same similar concerns that everyone's kind of brought forward and stuff, that platform being the biggest one. And we ended up going with FAVA, which is a local film and video art society here in Edmonton. And they have a FAVA TV platform. The main reason we kind of chose that one is we lost a major sponsor last year due to COVID. And we're really kind of struggling financially, and kind of had to find something to do that wouldn't have a big financial impact for us. So that platform is an interesting platform. It's a very static platform. It's kind of more, you kind of pick and choose. So knowing that, how do you engage that audience? How do you make them kind of participate and feel involved? We did have a Viewer's Choice Award. So kind of to try and encourage everyone to watch all the films, and then kind of we had a means of them getting kind of their vote to us. Like I had mentioned, we did a hybrid event in October. So we had a very small, the live event was for the film screen, for the filmmakers that we were screening. We really played up the whole mask thing. We made it into kind of a masquerade. We had a contest and a prize for the best masks, and there were some pretty ingenious ones that came and stuff, but it still wasn't the same without having that general audience. But at least the filmmakers were very supportive of that. And the biggest, as everyone had mentioned, the biggest struggle is how do you get that sense of community and everyone kind of watching together. And the audience reaction to films are so important for the filmmakers themselves, just to see how are people reacting to it? Do they like it? Are they laughing or crying or reacting at certain times that you kind of how you want them to? So that I don't think you can ever capture virtually and stuff. It's just not the same having a group of people in your living room watching the film content as opposed to being together in a community group. So it's still not ideal. I don't think it's a replacement going virtual. Kind of have to look at it, how can it enhance what we kind of already have?
My experience of challenges, I feel, are just understanding a new technology, understanding how to geo-blocking, having discussions with filmmakers about securing that. I wouldn't say filmmakers, but I think studios. Our opening night film was one night in Miami, and they really wanted to make sure that whoever we went with was trustworthy in terms of streaming. So I felt as if a lot of studios did not want to hand over films that normally come to our festival. That was a big challenge because we get great films from, A24, Sony. So it was kind of it was sad not to have them this year, or in January when we had the online festival. But understanding how the mechanics work in terms of, like Neil said, trying to upload all the films and trying to upload all of the films was a challenge. So especially with a small team, I don't really have 10 to 20 people working for the festival. So it would be a lot of late nights and a lot of just feeling like I want to pull out my hair because, and just fear. I was fearful because I just wanted to make sure that audience, the film started in time, which they did. It was wonderful. Does the audience know where to go on the platform? Because we've created an island. So we had a yacht, we had different pavilions, and it was fun. It was very interactive. So, but once the audience, actually the panelists and the people who are doing like our tributes, any age range, they still had a difficulty understanding it. So you really had to do rehearsals. And you have to make sure that you create time in your schedule before the film festival starts, that rehearsals for the panelists and the tributees, because you can have tributees that are in their 60s to 70s to 80s, and they're not technically savvy, you know, and you have to really show them a new platform. So I wouldn't say all of them, but you know, you just have a few who don't understand a new platform. So that was really a challenge. Also, I normally had created my schedule the same way I would have scheduled an in-person event, which I would have 3 venues happening at the same time. And then when I had Q&A, I had to make sure that we were not, there was no overlap. And that we found ourselves, like, instead of having the Q&A at the Rum Tower or something like that, we would have to take it to another venue that we weren't using, that maybe didn't have this presentation mode that you have, but showed films. So we're like, okay, how do we create a new venue on the fly? So yes, it was a challenge. It was exciting. It was exhilarating. I loved the fact that we tried it. Will we do it again? There's nothing like the in-person experience. I think a lot of people will tell you that the virtual platform is here to stay, but as a destination film festival, you really have to touch and feel people, and you want the audience back. And you know, we all know that feel, and the magical, getting on that magical carpet ride out, what that feels like. But yeah, it was a thrilling experience. It was a great experience. I would highly recommend it if you haven't tried it. And yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so actually what's really cool about this this panel is we get to talk about festivals that you guys actually represent. And I wanted to say, you know, a little shout out here to the Bahamas Film Festival, you know, because my God, like, what a cool event. Like, I have a few friends who've actually screened there, and they're like, there's really nothing like this event. It's really, like, it's amazing. There's a huge rollout. There's like massive industry presence. So, you know, in putting together these panels, I was actually forced to research a lot of people that I hadn't researched before. And Leslie, like, wow, what you've done there is absolutely incredible. And Neil, like, I looked at your programming for Manchester, and, you know, stellar job, man. Like, what a great film festival. And Caius, I've known you for a year now. And Toronto Motorcycle Film Festival is just such a cool event. It's such a cool, it's just, there's a lot of coolness here, right? And Edmonton Shorts, I submitted to you once and you rejected me as a filmmaker. And I want to say, that's okay. I forgive you. I'm just kidding. Yeah, so, you know, it's really interesting because we're doing digital in a very different way than a lot of people. We spent the entire year telling our audience that we would not go virtual, that we do not like virtual events. And now we're having to do a 180 and tell them, okay, don't worry. We're going to do it right, you know? And it is absolutely feeling like being a first-year film festival again, right? Everything is absolutely new. And yeah, you have industry contacts that you can lean on, and you have a little bit of credibility, which allows you to put together panels like this. But my God, everything feels fresh. That whole, you know, process, that workflow of, okay, secure screener, DCP, put it in theaters, get the venue, welcome guests, all that stuff is gone, and it's completely new. So it has been really challenging. But one thing that we decided to do was we talked to the filmmakers. We were listening to filmmakers all year. Anytime we had an opportunity to talk to a really good filmmaker, we said, what's been your experience at virtual film festivals, and what's something that you want to change? What's something that you think that this medium can possibly provide, but because all of us are so overwhelmed with all that we have to learn, maybe we're not seeing some small thing. And they said, one thing that I would really love is to be able to meet my audience. I haven't seen my audience in an entire year. And one thing I've realized is that we all programming fairly good filmmakers. None of us are programming complete beginners here. So most of the filmmakers that we program, they're not too interested in watching their own films. They're really interested in watching the audience and seeing that feedback. And so the best thing that we thought to do was, let's do screenings that start at a certain time, they end at a certain time, and highly drive and incentivize people to watch them at 2 o'clock and then tune into the Q&A at 4. Type in some questions. Yeah, it may not be the same as live. Maybe we're not going to get 250 people in a Q&A, 300 people, but we might just get 30, 40 people in a Q&A. And I think for filmmakers, that feeling of just attending something that's happening now, that is such an important part of film festivals. So all of that being said, what's one thing that you would do differently now? For those of you who don't know about Filmocracy, I have looked into the platform. I really do support what you guys are saying. It looks absolutely awesome. And that stuff you were talking about, the different buildings and venues, mind-blowing stuff. Like, I've seen the maps and stuff. It's absolutely so cool, and we will definitely entertain that. So Neil, I want to open it up to you. What's one thing that you would do differently?
It's a really tricky question, because I felt really limited in kind of what we were able to do. I think one of the things I really noticed was we didn't get, one of the things I really liked about the Filmocracy platform is you had all these buildings, you had your little festival village, and the idea of sort of creating this community. I really liked that idea, and that's kind of what sold us on the platform. But like Leslie said, you kind of did need to really talk some people through how that worked, especially some of the filmmakers. They were like, where's my film playing? I was like, you're in the documentary building? And they were like, where is this building? And I was like, well, don't worry, the map will be like, I've shown them the map, like just a JPEG of it. I was like, you'll be able to click the building, and you just, at this time, just click this bit. And they were like, what building? Because it didn't go live till the day of the festival, I think I'd need to have talked to I know Filmocracy would have been perfectly happy for us to do it, but if we could have had the map live maybe a week before, and I could have arranged a day, just as an hour session where I could have got the filmmakers in and showed them exactly how it worked. Maybe even got a chance to do like a screen recording of myself clicking on the buildings that I could have then uploaded to the platform. So there's just a little bit more education for them on that. So I sort of second Leslie's, you kind of did need to do a bit of education on it, even though I thought it was totally intuitive. Some people were just, until they saw it, they couldn't get their head around it. I think I'd have probably tried to do something a bit sillier with the networking, because I thought kind of we had networking spaces, and I kind of thought it was quite cool because it was limited to tables of 6. So it wasn't like 1,000 people on a Zoom call with just 2 loud voices shouting. It was limited to like tables of 6, and I could actually like shuffle all the tables and stuff. So we could try and get people to network and meet as many people as possible. And the uptake on that was a lot lower than I expected. So a lot less of the filmmakers sort of came back for the networking. So I think I'd have liked to try and work out something more fun, or just something we could have done to sort of get over people's Zoom fatigue and get people into the networking areas. Because the Q&As were great. The same as you guys, we did live Q&As after every screening, and the filmmakers absolutely loved that side of it. But yeah, not as many came back for the sort of filmmakery networking as I'd have liked. And I don't know exactly what we could have done, but I think I'd like to have put more thought into something to try and convince people sitting on a Zoom call for another hour would be fun.
Caius?
For me, one of the things that was a big unknown was how we should structure the length of the film festival. Like, typically our festival runs 3 or 4 days, and this time we made it 10 days. So, you know, the idea was, let's give people access for a longer period of time, so that instead of them bending their schedule to us, we can make it available to them during this period of time. And we made almost all the films available during that 10-day window. And we had a couple of premieres in that. That was just like a test, and it was a starting point. And I think I would tweak that a little bit for next year, look at what that availability window is, maybe do more premieres so that some movies come out only on certain days at certain times. Because I did feel that added a sense of urgency to tune in and watch, maybe a little bit of FOMO for people that missed it. So a little bit more of that, tweak that a little bit to add some of that energy. We also did like a daily newsletter that we sent out to our subscribers, and I thought that that worked really well, sort of just to keep, you know, that momentum going. So I would continue that, but maybe tweak that a little bit, and not just for us to push information out, but use it maybe in some way to get information back from the audience. Like I was thinking about a model of a theater lobby, if you will. So a place where our audience can interact with each other and also with the filmmakers in between movies. So I'm sort of thinking about that and testing a couple of different platforms ideas to see how that could pan out. Again, the idea here is to just increase that level of interactivity amongst our audience, so that they can feel more engaged rather than just, you know, tuning into our video on demand service at night by themselves or with a friend or a partner, and not having that energy level that we were looking for.
Okay, I think it's my turn. Yeah, I was actually looking for a button to unmute myself. Okay, I think yeah, because I'm kind of juggling with a bunch of ideas right now, and that I'm trying to wrap up. But maybe I will chip in a little bit on the industry side. So I've been thinking, you know, pandemics makes this pretty great opportunity for industry people to connect on a very different, more safe and intimate level, I would say, where it's comfortable to not really only talk about successful case studies. I know maybe it's a little bit controversial, because we're like trying to make it so hard, and then even if we made it, we're still trying. So I would be here on the side of what I found really interesting recently, was that the idea of a think tank in pandemics is pretty intriguing, I would say, because I can see a lot of professionals coming together to this safe space that can be created online, privately held, within the festival, for example. And then somehow we can share not only successful case studies, which is important, I think, because I started in the communication area field as a publicist, you know, and every single publicist and PR person, if you know some, they're very independent, and they have their titles and they don't want to really to share a lot. And this particular area is about successful case studies, because you cannot really say, oh, I've worked on 10 titles and 7 of them were great, and the 3, I don't want to talk about them, because obviously people will think different things. And that was what happened in, let's say, traditional film industry events, where you cannot really open up that much, or someone will pretend they don't have time anymore for you. So at some point, I found it interesting that you can create this place where people can come if they want to and start sharing, and that can maybe not immediately change things, but it can start the process of people collectively come together on their experiences, and then we can have a platform for eventually for problem solving, which I find incredibly interesting, because for me it's more important to have these experiences lately, when people can share and look at my projects, which obviously I would do them differently when I look, you know, a couple of years after, and I looked at the same project. I would say, you know, with experience from now, I would change this, and I would really approach this problem differently. And then back then I couldn't really ask, you know, and now I feel like people are more open to the idea of sharing and caring about different projects, and also the creating a pipeline where in the end, when something happens, you can actually get the proper industry support in different fields. And that's something that I would improve. In fact, I would try to find these spaces and these synergies more, because if you think, 10 years ago, I couldn't imagine that a publicist from Poland or a sales agent would work with another sales agent. That was like oxymoron of some sort. But now I feel like, okay, if I have a project and then I need some press in Canada, right? Then I would rather go to a local Canadian publicist, because this person would know the press, could go for a coffee or something, and I cannot from Europe, for obvious reason. And then obviously we can somehow try to connect it on a different level recently. So I really like this vibe, and that's something I think to explore.
Yeah, a lot of similarities and stuff. I think the biggest thing that we would do differently this time is use a different platform, and just one that has a little bit more functions and capabilities and stuff. As I mentioned, FABA is looking at doing a lot of different things differently and stuff, but that is, and they may have it up and going by the fall. It's hard to say. One thing that seems to be really similar that everyone's kind of said so far, and I completely agree and would like to see more of that, is that networking thing. That is one thing that filmmakers really enjoy when they are together. How do you recreate that on a virtual thing? Another is to for this coming 2021 is to have it live streamed but also recorded. So the live streaming, you're able to kind of then have that excitement and kind of, you have to be there to participate and have that immediacy. But I think it's really important to also have the content available after. And I know this kind of goes into a later kind of question and kind of discussion, but just that reach and your audience. So we know that October sometimes can be nasty up in Edmonton and stuff, weather-wise, and which can really affect people driving and stuff. So there are going to be the ones that are going to definitely show up no matter what, but there are also a lot of people and a lot of our supporters that sometimes can't make it to that 2 o'clock. Okay, the film I want to see, or a panel is happening at 2, something comes up. I really wanted to have the opportunity to see it, but I can't make it. And rather than that completely being then unavailable to them, they can still at least they can't participate in it because it's not going to be live anymore, but they can actually see what happened within that discussion. But yeah, interactivity, that think tank that you had kind of mentioned, and that connecting virtually, which I think is, and connecting virtually from a much larger geographic area than is kind of the strength of these virtual events, is that you can have someone from Poland or the Bahamas or kind of involved on your panels and your Q&As, whereas before you just had to rely on the filmmakers that could actually come and attend your event in that live kind of capacity. So those are some of the things that we would do a little bit differently, is just to have more of that networking, which I think is really, really important for the filmmakers, and that sharing. But how do you do it that it makes it exciting and that they want to come back? Because yes, that screen fatigue is huge. Sitting in front of a little screen or your TV, after a while it gets to be, you get tired, right? So, and it's a lot to try and stay focused and happy and kind of engaged. So how do you kind of incorporate all those elements in a virtual manner? So lots of things to figure out for us. We've got a few months yet, and for us to be able to do that, because our festival happens in October.
I'm currently running 2 computers here and 4 screens. I've got this really strange setup going on because I'm also tech support for our film festival as well as festival director. It's been a short-staffed year, but I do want to hammer home on something that both Marcin and Candace were hammering. We're talking about, which was community, right? That's what good film festivals are about. They're about creating community. And so really we're talking about how do we replicate the community that is created in person in a virtual event. And Marcin, you said think tank, and that's really interesting. I was part of a think tank earlier this year, which had nothing to do with film at all. I was totally out of my depth zone because I studied stats back in university, and I was asked to run statistics for COVID-19. And I was actually asked to deal with a ton of people that I would never have met in my life. I got to talk to the first doctors who treated this in Wuhan. I got to talk to, like, in the first hospital, like, actually talk to them about what they're talking about, talking to doctors. And that 1 month experience of connecting made me see the world very differently. It actually made me feel like this entire place feels so small suddenly, you know? And that's really what globalization has done. Really, it has sort of a juxtaposition where it's distanced us and brought us together. And I think we have a choice on which one to do. So I really like your idea of a think tank, and I think that film festivals that have a similar mindset can definitely help each other out in so many ways. So before I ramble on any further, I do want to announce one of our arrivals. And it's funny, Jim, I didn't completely realize you were missing until 4 minutes into the thing, because I had it in my head. I've been seeing the 6 boxes in all the announcements. And I realized I'm not supposed to be a guest on this panel, so there's a guest missing here. And so I want to welcome Jim Farmer from Out on Film. He's joining us from Georgia. Yeah. So Jim, let's just unmute you there, and you can jump right in. Tell us a little bit about the first question we asked is just how did you do it? So all of us have gone through different platforms. So if you can tell us like how Out on Film managed to go digital, and perhaps address the question that we're currently on, which is how would you do things differently?
Thank you for having me. I apologize for being late. I've had a pet emergency that's been a little bit traumatic today, so thank you for bearing with me. It's been a very tough morning. Last year, we learned how to do it. We learned how to go virtual, and we were able to do it. But what we could not anticipate is what would happen once we were virtual. And, what we would do differently is we would do more education to our patrons. A lot of our patrons didn't know how to do things or how to hook this up or what platforms to use. So we definitely would have done more education. We would have, we did a lot of live streams, and they were fun to do. And, they were kind of exciting for our filmmakers. But when you have 30, 40 live streams within 10 days, that's really exhausting. It's exhausting for you. It's exhausting for your patrons. So I think this year we're going to probably do live streams more when there are events, maybe have 4 or 5 live events, and the rest we can pre-record, because what we found is that people will watch your events. It may not be at the moment, it may not be live, but people will eventually watch your Q&As. So, but you don't have to, beat yourself to make sure they're live. So we will do a combination of probably some live stream events, live Q&As, and the rest will pre-record. We need to find more ways to bring people together. I know that we've talked about community, and what we think we all miss with a film festival is the community of people that come together, the patrons that you may see once or twice a year, coming together to see a film, talk about it with their friends, engage, and you can't really have that. So we're looking at ways that we can really have Zooms and literally see more patrons, to see them, talk to them, get their feedback, laugh with them, because they just enjoy the experience of coming together. So we really want to work on that this year. I think another thing that we really didn't quite understand is that for the Q&As that we did, we kept them on evented. We wanted to give, our patrons exclusivity to see these Q&As. A lot of other people, when they did live stream Q&As, they put them on Facebook or social media, and we resisted that because we wanted to really make sure it was special for the patrons. But this year, we'll definitely do it differently. We'll maybe have one or two that are exclusive to Eventive. The rest we'll just put on social media because it's great advertisement. You can have a great Q&A. It makes people really want to see the movie. So we're definitely going to do that this year, to put more of those on social media during the festival and advertise it and drive it back to what we're doing.
All right, that's really interesting. So you're another Eventive guy, and Caius and I are Eventive guys, and so it's really interesting to see how that has. Oh, Leslie's back. You're back.
The internet gods are not working out for me. I've been like trying to move all over the place. Okay, so the difficulty is just that internet issues, and what I feel. Candace, I really appreciate you saying that a community, you felt community. I felt, going to Cannes, going to all of these large events, film festivals that are fantastic, running down the Croisette, going to this meeting, that meeting, trying to reach all the films on time. I felt as if we created a community within a community by doing this virtual. Like I would never be able to meet any of you if I had not, if we didn't have this experience, and long-lasting, networks that I met at the Cannes virtual event, that I had at the film festival virtually in January. So, I tend to look on the positive side, but I understand, people want feedback in terms of difficulty, things I would do different. I think the things that I would do different would be to market, make sure, like, we're not an AFM. We don't have 300,000 people on our database. But I would definitely invest in someone who, whether it's, we had an incredible sponsor from Screen International, but that just did not reach the audience that we want. And you have to do marketing. If this is something that you want to stick with in terms of virtually, as someone indicated, there's a virtual fatigue. And then when you go to film festival, what I would try to do differently would be to tell everybody, indicate each film that is geo-blocked for your region, because when you go and you pay for a pass, and you realize you have to ask for a what do you call it? What do you call it when you get your money back? You ask for a help me out here.
Refund.
Refund. There you go. And when you ask for a refund, you don't want to have to do that. You want to support the festival, and the festival is an international festival. You would think that it would be open to the world. So one thing I would do differently is really indicate which film is not able to be viewed in a particular region. Many things that I feel could be done differently, but I wouldn't know if I didn't experience this.
There's an old quote from, he's a writer who passed away, who wrote The Last Lecture. Someone help me if you know his name. Randy Pouch. And he said, he said, if things are going badly, don't worry, you're probably learning a lot. And I think that really has held true for this, because we are all learning something new. We're having to move our minds to be different, right? And I was talking to a couple of festival directors down in Florida, and their festival crowd is like in their 70s and 80s. And they were getting calls, what's an HDMI cable? I have a tube TV, Eventive's not working. What channel is Eventive on? It's not on Global, it's not on this news network. So is it on the news? We're not dealing with that because our demographic is usually like 25 to 35, but we're still dealing with people who are like, I can't figure this out. So I think this is probably, at least from, we haven't even started. We just started our screenings at 12 o'clock. So our festival is just rolling off, and this is our, first event for the official film festival, but already I can see that we did not give this the proper appreciation of how much time it takes to set this up properly. And, you know, the more I'm reading up on it, the more I'm reading, they say 3 months before, you got to have everything. And then 3 months is your rollout. And that just wasn't the case for a lot of people. I think a lot of people were on the fence. And I think maybe one of the unique challenges of this is we are responding to something that we do not control, right? I can stage a virtual event 6 months in advance, but then what do I do with all that planning and all that investment and all that education if suddenly things are open? Well, filmmakers really, you know, forgive us for being that prepared, and then, you know, coming at this with a virtual event when, you know, theaters have been open for 2 months. So there was some sense of, if we go for this, we have to make a decision at the last minute, and don't worry, we'll be able to do this because it's virtual. But it just hasn't. It hasn't been so easy. It hasn't been so smooth or seamless. I think a lot of people are going to the platform and they're like, I don't get this. I don't get this. And with I think increasingly what we have is a limited attention span among people, and people just do not have the patience for things that need a learning curve anymore. And I think that's true for reading. I think that's true for a lot of things. So yeah, I definitely agree with a lot of the stuff that you guys have said, you know, about education, about preparing, about community, all that stuff. And Jim, one thing I would say to you, because, you know, you were talking about building up a community, but at the same time you were saying, you know, like, you may not want to do a few things live, the Q&As live. And, you know, I've heard from a lot of filmmakers this year that they really do enjoy the live element of virtual film festivals. So, you know, what I was thinking was, you know, getting filmmakers to meet their audience, that's an experience for the filmmaker, right? So that's one experience. The second experience, obviously, in this is that you can have the people who are viewing it get to interact with that filmmaker, ask questions in real time, and then that filmmaker gets that. So that's the second part of it. And then, of course, the third part of it is if you had done a pre-recorded thing. But one of the filmmakers that I spoke to said something that really shifted my mind on this. He said, I don't want to talk to you about my film. I know you like my film already. Why else would you have selected it? And that was a really good point. So I want to open it up to another question. So what can festivals do? It's a complete segue. What can festivals do to give value to filmmakers in a virtual setting, perhaps in a way that they wouldn't have been able to in a live setting? So let's open this up with Neil.
I was all ready for the next question on the list, so that's thrown me. I was going to say the one benefit was I didn't have as many hangovers, because normally I'm out late with the filmmakers, but so I'll throw that one in there just because I'd written it down. I think the value you can give to filmmakers, what I was really surprised at, and I think it's so nice to be on this panel with all these festivals who've done virtual the right way, which is about making sure the filmmakers have that experience and we give something back to them, because so many of the filmmakers were surprised that we were doing a red carpet for them before their film that we'd then put out on Facebook, that we were doing live Q&As afterwards, that we wanted them to get involved, and they had stuff to get involved with. So many of them just said they'd been at certain festivals and it just felt like they'd been stuck on a website and forgotten about. They didn't even have that much communication before the festival. So I think what we can do for filmmakers is try the same we do in a physical event, try and connect them with as many industry as we can, try and get them as big an audience for their film as they can, get them that feedback in a live Q&A, get them asking questions, get them a chance to meet each other and make connections. And one of the things we had early on with Filmocracy was questions about geo-blocking, and I don't know if it's something they had to put in place just for us, but one of the things we came up with was dealing with, if I geo-block, we're in the UK, loads of our filmmakers were in Australia, we're in the USA, they want to watch all the films, especially if you're in a shorts block. You want to see all the other shorts that are in the block with you, or if you're a feature, you want to see who you're up against if you're going for a prize. So we managed to get Filmocracy to whitelist the filmmakers, so their email addresses and their passes bypassed any geo-blocking. And every single filmmaker we asked was absolutely fine with that and happy for other filmmakers to access it from anywhere. I was at the point where, because Filmocracy said they only managed to sort it out like 2 days before the festival. I was at the point where I was going to set up a Vimeo, like super secure Vimeo section of our website, just so I could share that with the filmmakers, which would have been a whole lot of more work. So I was quite glad Filmocracy figured it out. But yeah, I think just they were so appreciative of just everything. Anything you can do for them that gets them a chance to talk about their film, to promote their film, to interact with audience. I don't know if we can do much more than that. So hopefully we did okay.
Yeah, for me, because the Motorcycle Film Festival is quite niche in the content that we get, and there's only really 4 or 5 motorcycle film festivals, like major film festivals in the world. One of the things that our filmmakers are looking for are to get more people to see their work. So although there are some cases where we do have to implement geo-blocking, in most cases we were fortunate to be able to make our films available globally, which means that there's potential for it to be seen outside of Toronto. Instead of going to a theater, you can now watch it from anywhere in the world. So that was, I think, a good benefit to our filmmakers. The other thing is that in previous years, when we were in person, we had filmmakers come to Toronto and we would bring them up on stage and they would get to talk about their movie and interact with the audience. But that was just a small number of filmmakers as opposed to the whole program that we were showing in that particular year. So going digital allowed all of the filmmakers whose work we featured to interact with their audience. So they got a chance to speak with the audience. They got a chance to get feedback from the audience. So I think that was beneficial for them. Actually, even for the filmmakers that actually came on site, sometimes, creative types, myself included, like we're a little bit introverted, so we may not want to be in the spotlight. So, they'd watch their film being screened, but step back a little bit. They wouldn't necessarily engage with the audience that was in the theater, but doing it online allowed them to do so. And so we received a lot of great feedback about that. But Robert, when you asked this question, it sort of like hit me that when we were figuring out what to do with our 2020 festival, when we had to go online, I was thinking about this question: what can I do for the filmmakers to make it successful for them? But you know what I didn't do? I didn't ask them. And that's, I think, something that I should be doing, or all of us should be doing, which is to actually go out to the filmmaker and say, we've got this platform now, we've got this broader reach now. What is it that we can do? What is it that you would like to see? Instead of me trying to imagine, I should have asked them, and I didn't do that. So that's, your question prompted that thinking. So thanks for that.
My pleasure. We're going to get to Marcin in a second. I do want to remind anyone who's here for questions but is having to pick between this or the Story Over Everything short starting at 2 o'clock. That short block will be available until 4 o'clock. So if you really want to stay here, you can, and you'll be able to ask questions. We are running obviously a little bit behind because these questions and these answers are so awesome, and I would dare not cut anyone off because I'm humbled actually that we're able to soak in all of this knowledge. I truly am. I was telling a friend of mine, I mentioned this yesterday as well, how amazing it is to have some of you on here, because frankly, I look up to festival directors and festival programmers. You guys are my Batmans and Supermans and Ben Afflecks, right? So it's really cool, and people don't get how much I admire anyone who does this, because I know how hard it is. And to do it well, as opposed to, because there's 8,000, 9,000, 10,000, 5,000, 5 million film festivals in the world right now. It feels like there's that many. And so to meet the people who've taken the time to do it the right way, integrate the community, celebrate art, celebrate artists, it's really awesome. And I want you to know that you're all very much an inspiration to me personally. So let's go over to Marcin.
Hi, I just wanted to ask if we can repeat the question because in the meantime, I just got lost with all the reflections and the announcements.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So the question is, what is one thing that you can do for filmmakers with a virtual event that you maybe could not have done without this setting? So it's a unique advantage. It's just flipping the whole, this is a tragedy situation on its head. What's the upside?
Actually, what I've been thinking about this was recently the really how visual is interdisciplinary, and how you can think about the project now. So I think that our industry was always driven about these, big names, and there's some sort of let's say a reflection shortcut when I have first time filmmakers and they go like, I'm going to be a next Tarantino, and even if that's true, I mean, sometimes I can see that. We skip the part where we say, all right, well, it will just take years now until everyone collective will just admit that, and people will screen enough movies and all this, And then I found it interesting to observe our industry from processes point of view, and somehow sometimes when you deconstruct these processes a little bit, you can see that we are like, sometimes industry is talking to industry. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but it's like I did crowdfunding a lot, for example, and as it somehow digs into the fundraising itself, I would be invited to many fundraising panels. And then I can see, just directors pitching about fundraising to other directors. And I was really actually intrigued by that, because I was like, is that the thing? Like, I mean, if I'm a director and I'm pitching to another director that looks for money, can I get that money? Probably not. I probably need an investor, right? So what happens with virtual, I think, is interesting, because we can actually open up to thinking, all right, I have this film, and it's about some interesting social aspect or human rights, and then I can ask, where's my audience? Is it the film industry audience, or maybe it's something else? And then somehow internet brings us different niche opportunities to directly reach to audiences and break that wall in between of industry and public. So it doesn't feel like TV anymore with the silver screen and me knocking on it like, hello, is anybody there? Rather, it feels like it's more direct. So I think that somehow it of course it somehow transforms gatekeeping, and I think gatekeeping is important for many reasons. Like I've heard recently from this a very cool director that, well, it's really interesting if we like kick out someone from the room and he comes back with the window. Well, that's an interesting person, I guess. This is interesting. Like, why? And then at the same time, I really think that it's pretty cool that we can take our time and reflect on these projects, and then like it's more accessible. And at the same time, we can actually think, all right, if I have this film that's also an art piece, would I go to an art gallery and kind of place it all together and maybe invite art scene people to my festival? Because normally it would be really far. Somehow it was unreachable because it was a lot of logistics and somehow diving into like, how do they think? Like transmedia is somehow much more available recently. And this is what I totally admire about hybrid and virtual festivals, that it's like connecting people in more diverse ways.
Candace?
Yeah. So the question is kind of, what can we do for filmmakers? A lot of pretty much reiterating what a lot of people said. I really like that question that you had, Caius, kind of your comment that we should be asking the filmmakers. And I think that's kind of something, yeah, definitely, right? Rather than us as directors and stuff trying to figure out what should we be doing for them? A simple question is, what would you like to see out of this, out of a virtual event? The biggest thing for me, I think, for the filmmakers and stuff is just reaching a larger audience and having that opportunity to connect with more people outside of your own little city or your own geographical boundaries. And that's really kind of exciting. So how do we do that? And just making sure that those filmmakers are open to that. Our film festival is, it's all shorts. It's all independent. A lot of them, we have everywhere from first-time filmmakers to senior filmmakers who have been on the film festival and distribution circuit for a long time. So I think that is an interesting thing as well for what can we do for filmmakers. In our case, is that networking component of having the emerging filmmakers connect with the more established filmmakers and sharing experiences and then I know filmmakers, and I have mentioned that before and others have as well, they want to see, so for virtual, yeah, just the reaction from the community and stuff. So I think it's just feedback, audience, community, connections, and just asking them, the filmmakers directly, and getting them involved in kind of how do you see virtual film festivals moving forward, and what more would you like to see out of having the hybrid type of events?
I think for us, for Out on Film, I mean, obviously, we all miss the experience of having a live festival and guests coming in. I mean, that's great for festival directors. That's great for patrons. That's wonderful for filmmakers to have an events where they're there, have parties for them and events. But that's wasn't on the table last year, and it sounds like this year it might be tough as well. What we did find worked really well for us is that last year we had an international filmmaker brunch. Obviously, it was virtual, but it was well-meaning. But we had filmmakers literally from all over the world just talking. We had, I think, 38 filmmakers, and there's some festivals out there that can have the budget to bring in a lot of filmmakers. We have a very limited budget, so we can't bring in as many people as we want to. But to have an event like that with people literally from around the world talking, we had a combination of directors who were making their first film, directors who were on their 12th film, veterans. And it was really great to bring them together to talk about their experience and to see what they were going through, how they were adapting, what they were doing to sort of keep themselves busy, and how they could collaborate. And for us, the filmmakers really, really liked that. So we're trying to do more of that. When we have shorts programs, we want to bring together many of the filmmakers just to talk amongst themselves and have our patrons talk to them. Our filmmakers really, really like that. Also, our filmmakers, as you all have mentioned so eloquently, our filmmakers really just want their films to be seen. So something we dealt with last year is oftentimes we would have very short windows of time where we could show a film, and we push for more because we really want these films, when we show them, to have the biggest audience that they can. And filmmakers really want that experience of having people see their film and getting feedback, especially new filmmakers. They want people to see their films and talk to them about what they like, what they didn't like, and help them grow. So that's something that we were able to hopefully successfully do last year, and the filmmakers appreciated that.
Well, one thing that I took for granted is that the Bahamas International Film Festival is in the Bahamas, and people don't necessarily want to be a part of a film festival in the Bahamas if it's virtual. So, you kind of feel like they really, really want to be here. It's a destination festival. So I take, it was a draw because we've established ourselves to be one of the 25 coolest film festivals via Moving Picture Magazine, and that's a great accolade to have. But then if it's not in the Bahamas in person, it's not cool, right? I mean, we can make it cool. We've had fantastic, cool events like Jim was mentioning. But I think that when I spoke to the filmmakers ahead of time, they really wanted to make sure that they were able to network. You know, if they weren't coming, they want to know how to network. And Filmocracy has that fantastic way of being able to table hop and provide like a networking filmmaker pavilion or filmmaker retreat where they're just, you know, mingling while the films are going on and something else is going on. And then another, what they want is press. They want to know, they still, even though it's virtual, they really want to know, it's the same as in person, I think. And there's even more pressure a little bit. You know, if my film's going to be here, who's going to be, who are the credited people, the industry, who they can still, you know, spend their time. They're giving their film and they're giving their time and they're giving they can go to any festival virtually now. So what is the unique angle? The unique angle is you need to still have those people who are in the industry, the accredited industry professionals. The other is the press. You know, what press do you have? How are they going to get coverage? So, you know, the really important part here was to make sure that we gave some bang so that they can be comfortable to commit to the festival. Everyone wants to come and have a daiquiri in their hand and sit in the sand and, you know, jump in the ocean, but and have a vacation because of the job well done that they did. But what is the Bahamas International Film Festival laurels going to do for them? And are they going to be happy at the end of the day? So I feel that they were very happy with the networking. They were happy with the coverage. But I think it's going to be more discerning for film festivals or press now to decide which festivals they go to.
And that's a really interesting point. And I think one of the biggest selling points of this panel is how different all of our film festivals are. Not only are we're operating, I mean, Caius and I are both in Toronto, but everybody else is from somewhere else in the world. And for people who think, well, Candace is in Canada, you need to go and walk from Edmonton to Toronto and tell me how close those two are. They're really far away. And, you know, so everybody's really spread apart. And I think it's really interesting that our festivals are so different, right? We're all, you know, Pendance and Toronto Motorcycle Film Festival both started in 2017. Bahamas has been around for over 20 years now, right? Yeah, is that correct? Wait, why am I unmuting? Sorry, I can't unmute. Okay.
18 years. Whoa.
Okay, almost there. But I mean, you know, but like, I mean, I think most filmmakers who are watching this understand that there is a difference between a third and fourth year film festival in terms of what they can provide in terms of the things you're talking about, press, media. You know, we were reaching out to media to get coverage for a world premiere feature that we were getting, and they were like, "We're busy with South by Southwest, small fry. Go away." And I get that. I totally get that. We have to pay our dues, and you know, we have to hammer them earlier. And we did get a little bit of press, but it's not going to be TIFF level press. So I do want to share something that we're doing for our filmmakers that I think, if there are other festival programmers watching, I think that this is an awesome little hack. And Neil actually touched on it with the white passes. So one of the cool things was that every year we have filmmakers that we invite to the festival, and because for whatever reason they can't come, whatever, so we have a filmmaker pass designated to them, and we're able to pass that pass off to a local film school student or donate it to somebody. And this year we're like, hey, how about we just have like 30 passes baked in to our donation pile to be able to give to students for them to access Pendance. So we have that, and let's give filmmaker passes to festival programmers, right, at other film festivals. And what I thought was really cool is that every year I think our films are amazing, and I've always dreamt of being the type of film festival that could actually open a doorway for a filmmaker. And Leslie, you said, "What's this Bahamas laurel going to do for you?" Right? And that's kind of the point, right? Like, what do these laurels even mean, right? There's hundreds and hundreds and thousands of laurels out there. And so it's not really about the laurel, it's really about the impact. And what does the impact of that mean? Sundance official selection, frankly, and no offense to anybody who who thinks this is not the case, but I absolutely believe a Sundance official selection means pay attention to this film, right? It means there's something special about this film that you need to pay attention to, because Sundance is absolutely a quality film festival that does not bullshit with their programming. And there are a lot of film festivals out there. Carlo Vivari, there's tons of festivals out there that all of us programmers know that if they've picked this film, it must mean something. And frankly, for younger film festivals, like some of us, it's very difficult to get those laurels to actually mean something more, because, so I think that a really good hack that we found this year was, again, to invite tons and tons of programmers to your festival who are curious to see, how are you doing this whole virtual thing, and maybe learn from, the mistakes you're making so that they don't have to make them themselves. That helps the programmers. But then the second part is, let's expose these filmmakers to other people who are going to be programming their films potentially. And, we've already gotten like 3 or 4 requests from programmers like, hey, can you put me in touch with this filmmaker and that filmmaker? And I was like, success! I want these films to go everywhere. So I'm so happy for them. So I think that that's one small thing that I think going virtual has allowed us to do that, frankly, live screenings would not have been able to do. And we would only been able to invite Toronto or Ontario-based. So, by the way, guys, anyone watching, there's a lot of people watching here now, please put in your questions. You can direct your questions to either the panel, or you can direct it to a specific guest. So I'm just going to write this here, and we're going to get one more question in. Let's say live events are back. Are you personally going hybrid or live or virtual completely? I think I'll kick you off this panel if you say you're going virtual completely if live events are back. I'm just kidding. But yeah, all right.
I suppose it's me starting again. If I could I think just because we've done it, just because we had to learn how to do it, doesn't mean we have to do it again. I probably wouldn't want to go hybrid personally. I want the physical festival back. I want to be able to focus on that and making that as amazing as possible. I think in some ways it might be out of our hands. My worry also is that if the really big guns go hybrid and stay hybrid, is the access to content. Because if it's already played everywhere in the world, why do people want to come and see it at my festival? I know if we're physical, you can see it on screen. You're going to get to see it in the big screen, and you might have only been able to see it online before. But I just don't. We had, and also filmmakers. I don't think sales agents. Maybe Marcin can talk to this. I don't think as soon as physical events are back, the films are going to allow us to be hybrid. I think they're going to say no, because if you play around the world, if something plays around the world at Sundance Online, South by Southwest aren't going to show it. Cannes aren't going to show it. So I just want to be back live. I don't want to, Leslie, your festival sounds amazing. I want to come to the Bahamas. I'd love to come to Toronto, to come to your guys' festivals. Sitting in my bedroom watching films at 3 o'clock in the morning because of the time difference, I don't want to do that. I can do that anyway. I want to be in the Bahamas. Leslie, I don't believe for a second you started this film festival 18 years ago, by the way. You must have been like 12. But anyway, that's a slight separate thing. Yeah, I want the physical festival back. I want to get drunk with all of you. I don't want to sit on a Zoom.
Yeah, I'm with you. I cannot wait for live in-person festivals to be back and bigger than they were before. I want to walk into a theater that's just wall-to-wall, people shoulder to shoulder. I want us all to be laughing and gasping at the same time in the movie. I want to interact and mingle and go out for drinks afterwards. I want to have a kickoff party. I want all of that back. With that said, though, I think that some facet of a virtual festival we will continue with. It will not be like how we're doing it now. The focus will be on the in-person live experience. That's where the magic is. But there is something to being able to extend the reach of the film festival outside of Toronto. not just for us and our growth, but also for our filmmakers, giving them the opportunity to get more people to see their art, to see their work. I think that's an important mission. It's part of our mission. And so going online allows us to do that. Again, it won't be the same as now. The focus will be on in person, but I think virtual is here to stay in some format.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. Like I somehow I love festivals, and I will agree also with Neil and everybody saying, and Caius, you too, saying that, well, obviously I would love to be in Toronto and I would love to be in the Bahamas, obviously, like, come on. And then I can see Dominique in the comments section, and I would love to be in Brussels at Anima, which is wonderful animation festival, and somehow I miss people being mean. I mean, like, maybe that's a little bit weird and strange, but I like this vibe where you go and people just pretend that they didn't have time for you and you have to struggle, and then you have a rosé glass at the boulevard and you go like, oh, camp was different, in the past, that when we were not there, like Marilyn Monroe blowing candles and stuff, it's gone, and it seems like all these events are about salmon now, or the same DJ playing all over the same songs, and somehow, yeah, I kind of miss that vibe. But in the same time, I would go hybrid, to be honest, because I feel like, well, I like hybrid. I like virtual. I like maybe Neil is right. You're right, Neil, when you say we have these traditional schemes, right? There's sales agents and distribution companies and all these, cinematic experiences and contracts behind. But I'm open to reflect on that. I think we should reflect on that collectively more, because some of these schemes are like 50 years old. And I mean, like the struggle we have right now, we have pandemics and we go like, okay, so I want to showcase this film because why? Because I love these films. And I really want them to be shown. And then I cannot do this and I cannot do that. And, this is limited. And now I have to put it on these particular territories. And then I go like, yeah, all right. When we talk big titles, I mean, big time A-class competition titles, and we have, this big money behind, and we go like, all right, well, of course, we cannot show it everywhere, at once, right? But well, let's take it from the other side. How many films are disappearing from the industry, right? Even the one that were in some panorama or competition. I mean, and we have these selections, and then I found myself sometimes watching a film at Berlinale, let's say 10 years ago, and I loved the film, and I'm like looking for it right now, and it's nowhere there. It's just gone. As long as someone like me in that case will just reflect on it again and go like, oh, I remember this film, I want to pick it up, and showcase to everybody, because it's not necessarily outdated, because our distribution period is what, like 1 year, 2 years maximum, and then what happens to this film? And then I go like, yeah, well, as long as it's not again a big name, it's not in a collection. So what I find interesting about hybrid and virtual is that you can bring the second life for different filmmakers, for some films, because something that was shown like 10 years ago and people were like, this film is not good, we don't want to give it a award. Sometimes in some particular cases, it was foreseeing the future. And look what happens with stuff from the 90s, right? We kind of take this vinyl again, and we take this cassette, like if anyone remember disquette or a cassette, I mean, and we go like, we celebrate it now, right? And what I like about going hybrid and virtual is that we can actually now spend more time on going and saying, okay, maybe why not showcase films that are open now, right? Limit something for the film industry, and then take something that was go unnoticed 2 years ago. even it was selected, but there was no PR or no marketing or something, it was like lost because of different reasons. So I think that the thing is that we all focus on the same things, where, okay, it's selected in Sunday. Look at titles going, they go from one good festival to another. And it's actually limiting our exploration, because we talk with sales agents, we talk with distribution companies, etc., and we kind of market the same films all over again. When you go virtual, you like, sky's the limit, right? And you can go like, okay, why don't I just explore what's happening in Morocco now, right? Because I can do it from home, and I want to do it because I want to see and spend some time on actually going through selection, and sometimes thinking what happens with some particular films, and somehow try at least a little bit to expand this from particular A-list selection, because we don't really have time normally to do that, obviously, because we don't. But in the same time, it's good to be open and say, okay, I can limit something and somehow appreciate the fact that there are traditional industry schemes that we have to be a part of. But in the same time, why not just go and just, celebrate some completely independent filmmakers?
That's a really great point.
Yeah.
Absolutely great point. And
Sorry
I love how
for too long.
No, it's okay. You get passionate, right? When people get passionate, they start talking, and Okay, so Candace.
Yeah, so we're definitely going to continue a hybrid. The focus is going to be the live event. People, our audience and our patrons and the people that we know that come want to go back to experiencing it. Virtual will be a lot different. It really depends what's going to happen in October. But the thing with virtual for us, and what I feel really strongly, is it removes a lot of barriers. Edmonton is also a very small city. We're not even 1 million people. I mean, the province of Alberta, the population can fit into Montreal. So by us having it virtual, we can reach a much wider audience. The mobility issues are gone. Grandma that's in a long-term care can watch, her grandson's film. Weather is a big issue for us up here in northern Alberta, in the northern, latitude 53. So those kind of issues affect. Also, mental health concerns with people. I have an autistic son who suffers extremely from social anxiety. He hates going to festivals and like just crowds like that, where there's like a big crowd, but he loves watching films or having those kind of cultural experiences, and would much rather participate on his own, in his own space, rather than having to be kind of within that group. So when you look at that virtual, and same with Marcin, what you had said too, just a wider reach. I really liked your virtual sky's the limit kind of comment. You have opportunity to maybe bring some older ones back, because it is really hard to see those films that you had screened 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Well, how do you access them again? So maybe that could become part of a virtual kind of online component, but definitely a hybrid. So people that want to go to the festivals are going to come to the festivals, but there is an audience for those that want to watch it on their own time and in their own space.
Awesome. Jim?
We will definitely be hybrid this year. Our festival normally runs 11 days. What we'll probably do is the first 7 days, knock on wood, have a traditional festival live with an opening night parties throughout the week, lots of films and filmmakers. We'll probably have a few drive-in events, because we did that last year. They tend to be very, audiences really like drive-in events. But I can't deny that there's a big benefit to doing some virtual events. As I mentioned, there are filmmakers who simply can't travel, who you could have conversations with you couldn't normally do that with. And for our patrons, there's so much flexibility. A lot of our patrons have odd work hours. A lot of our patrons may be taking care of children or parents, and they can't come to a festival. Also, anyone who lives in Atlanta knows that driving in Atlanta is crazy. You could leave your house at 7 and get somewhere at 9:30. So for those perks alone, we can't ignore the hybrid. We can't ignore the virtual aspect. So we'll probably do like the last 3 or 4 days, make that a virtual experience.
Leslie?
I feel we definitely need to be more open-minded to have the flexibility for sure. I'm just thinking, honestly, how refreshing it was to not have a huge budget in terms of, flying in all the filmmakers, all of the audio visual that goes into just the whole production of having a in-person event. It was really great to feel like I wasn't being held to a budget that was so stringent in these times, and how we have to think about how people budgets are going to be in the future. What are we going to be? What are the real line items that we need to or do we want to spend? And I definitely think that the in-person event for the Bahamas International Film Festival will be that. But the virtual aspect, we created so much time and energy to create this beautiful virtual island. So we have to keep it. We have to do something with it. No, but seriously, if a filmmaker is in Asia, they and Candace said, if people have anxiety of travel, the flexibility, we have to be open-minded with that, with incorporating the hybrid event. I find that it would be great to utilize the virtual aspect throughout the year. However, I have to be mindful that our mission is we're not a distribution house, we're not, I feel that our mission is truly a showcase and a celebration of independent cinema, and the discussion in person and virtually. We really am torn as to how I roll out utilizing the virtual platform throughout the year, because I don't want to feel like I'm now becoming this distribution arm for the Bahamas or for the Caribbean. That too in itself is a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of expense, and just having to be very specific and not try to do everything that I want to do, and know what our strengths are, and our strengths, I think, is truly the in-person event. So definitely going to be utilizing both.
That is fantastic. We are going to get to some questions. I do want to offer one thing here. We all know each other a little bit right now, and that's good. If anyone is curious to, sorry to spotlight you there, Leslie, but if anyone is curious to look up Leslie and just see what she's done with the Bahamas International Film Festival, how they get sponsorships, how they roll out their event, how they get press and media. The whole point of Pendance is this year, and the panels is talking about the intersection of art and commerce. And a lot of film festivals get one right, some get the other right, very few get both right at the same time. And so, the galas, the parties, the industry, all that stuff, it's hard. It's hard to get it. It's hard. Then the accommodations, flying filmmakers out, this is a really important thing. So one thing does lead to another, right? For any festival directors who are watching or filmmakers watching, that's a really important part of what festivals are supposed to be able to do. They're supposed to be able to create a platform for industry and media to be able to access art. And so to have someone on this panel who's done this really well, with the Bahamas, I think everyone could just maybe make a little note to maybe the next time your sponsorship season comes up, just write Leslie an email and just maybe ask for a little tip. Sorry if you're going to get spammed with a few emails there.
10%.
And that's how you do it. Okay, so I do want to get to some filmmaker questions, and some people have questions over here. Sorry if they floated up to the top. This is a filmmaker that we selected. He was the first opening film of the festival. His name's Noel Bass, and he's made a really beautiful film about it's the Bears on Pine Ridge. It's about youth suicide among Aboriginal youth, and it's a 39-minute short, the longest short we've ever selected. We put it in its own block because it's a super important film. It's making Canadian premiere after going to Big Sky. And he wants to know what your festival's policy is on a film being 39 minutes long in terms of shorts, and if we can just limit this to about a sentence each, we'll just go through clockwise.
We've shown films of that length before, but I would say generally the quality will need to be stand out above the other shorts, just because it massively limits what you can fit within a shorts program, and our audiences kind of expect a minimum of 5 or 6 shorts. So it does limit you, but if the film's of a high enough quality, it shouldn't be a barrier. But you are going to have to really stand out.
Neil said programming a 39-minute short is hard to do, not virtually, but in the theater. So it's got to be fantastic. That's 39 minutes is just 1 minute short of what we would call a feature film. So there's that.
Yeah, it's somehow in between, which sounds creative, but in the same time, it's like really difficult to showcase it. And then somehow, because it's unexpected, difficult to market a little bit.
Yes, kind of reiterating what everyone said, that's a long short. It's got to be outstanding. We do have our second day of our festival is actually called Long Shorts. So our first day is 15 minutes and under. Our second day is anywhere up to an hour. So, but 40 minutes is still a rarity, and it's got to be dynamite.
A good film is a good film, whether it's 2.5 minutes or 39 or 4 hours and 12 minutes. The bottom line, though, is everyone else has said it's really hard to program a 39-minute film into a shorts block, because our blocks usually last about an hour and a half, so it would just be awkward. But I mean, it's doable, but it can be difficult to do.
I agree with all of you.
Okay, so that is that. Let's get to the next question. To the panel, I'm curious how your attendance, this is a great question. Yeah.
Not as strong as our in-person event. So the attendance was good. It was about as well as I could have expected, but not as strong as our in-person event.
For TMFF, the online attendance was on par with what was in person. It was less from Toronto than previous years, but more from outside of Toronto. So it sort of balanced itself out.
For Thessaloniki Animation Festival, it was actually massive on the industry side. We had a lot more people attending virtual because they came from different places that normally would be just difficult for them to fly in. So that was pretty great.
Our attendance as well was pretty much on par, again, for a lot of the same reasons that we were able to reach out to a lot different, a wider audience rather than just our local participants.
Time pass holders didn't come because they couldn't figure it all out. They didn't want to take the time to, but we had a lot of new people from around Georgia, and some of our films and shorts, we had no geofencing across the U.S., so that made for higher attendance in a lot of ways for us.
Our attendance was disappointing for the virtual experience, even though we had more international attendance, of course, because we reached out, but the in-person event is definitely more in attendance than virtual.
Yeah, I had a heart attack looking at our ticket sales, because we were kind of like, okay, maybe because it's virtual, our passes will start moving 4 days before. Oh, maybe it's 3 days before. maybe it's, okay, is this just never going to happen? And I think that it really does depend on what type of event you are. And if you're the type of event that has branded itself for a really long time on being a community-driven and like experience-driven type of film festival where the Q&As, the live event, the atmosphere is everything, people don't know you this way. So you've changed your brand, and I think that, you know, people have a sort of difficult time grasping it. So what ended up happening was yesterday we put up a hoodie contest for our Story Over Everything hoodie, and people really love this because it doesn't feature any Pendance branding, and it's really like the concept is it's your hoodie, your story. And people started blasting off, and a lot of people just realized, hey, if they're doing this, they must like really need some support here. So we had 143 people tag us in posts talking about the festival, talking about films, and it totally changed our trajectory overnight. I woke up to a big surprise. There were like almost 100 passes that had gone off, and I was like, oh my God, this, like, thank you, God, for this community. Sorry, go ahead.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a big save by our community here. So definitely virtual was hard there. And also, I do want to say to Noel, you know, we've talked before, obviously. You're 39 minutes short. That question, depending on where you go in the world, 39 minutes is either going to be met with unprogrammable or this is not that far from abnormal, because 30-minute shorts in certain parts of Europe are not that uncommon. And 30-minute shorts over here, honestly, there are festivals over here that won't program a short over 10 minutes. So you're definitely, yeah. So let's see here. There's another question. Nope. That's my own comment. Sorry about that.
I have a quick interjection here. You know, with the virtual was truly a great postcard for people who didn't even know about the film festival and would probably come down. You know, so it's I knew that we wouldn't have a high attendance, and you know, all these festivals are saying, oh, they doubled their attendance, they did amazing. You know, that's why I keep saying it. It has to be market. You have to market your festival. You have to have that database, and you have to. The filmmakers also have to market. You can't wait until the film festival markets for you. The filmmaker has to market as well. Your film. So we had a great, you know, a lot of filmmakers were doing that, but I just marketing is most important with a virtual event.
I completely agree with that. And, you know, one thing that I was saying early on was this is going to give filmmakers a real chance to meet festivals that they would have never interacted with before beyond the laurel, right? There are so many festivals out there I can speak to as a filmmaker. There, you know, my film goes to 100 film festivals. I honestly, and I mean no disrespect to anybody, I probably only register, completely focus on 20 of them, right? The rest are, you know, frankly, they're just, I consider it like a theatrical distribution, frankly. And so now you're being called into these virtual Q&As, and you're really seeing who's behind these festivals, who's the programmer that selected my film, what are their thoughts about my film, what kind of questions are they asking. And I think that it's really spotlighting good film festivals in a good way. You know, you're getting to meet people, and they're getting to meet you, and they're like, oh yeah, these people are awesome, these people are really cool. And for bad film festivals that maybe, you know, like, you know, they don't really have that professional standard, they constantly mess things up, I think you're getting spotlit. So I think that this has been an international spotlight on film festivals. There's a question here to the panel. I'm curious how that question has been answered. I apologize. What was the next question? Sorry, I've gotten lost in my own questions, but there was a question. Here we go. Okay. Could you elaborate on the virtual lobby? I believe this was a Caius thing. You mentioned virtual lobby. Can you elaborate on this?
Yeah, sure. So prior to the festival, ours was at the beginning of October. So in the spring, we started testing out this idea of going online, showing movies online. And one of the things that we did was to show a movie and allow interactive chatting while the movie was playing. So this sort of tests the idea, because in a theater setting, chatting during the movie is a no-no. But I wanted to see what that was like on an online experience, and the feedback was super positive. Because people weren't having like in-depth conversations about the movie, but they were using the online chat as a way to like share emotions with each other, like, wow, oh my God, I can't believe it. So like, emoticons and just short little quips. And the feedback that we got afterwards is that it was such a great experience that it allowed the audience to connect while they were watching the movie together. So I want to take that and then build that out into a virtual lobby idea. So if you go back to a theater, in between screenings, you'd all go back out to the lobby, you're hanging out there, maybe grabbing a beer, grabbing some popcorn, and you're all chatting about what you just saw, what you just experienced, how you connect with it. So I want to set up something like that online where people that have watched the movies, maybe some of them watch it on Monday, other people tune in and watch it on Tuesday or Wednesday. They have a place where they can go back to and chat with each other about what they just saw and how what they took away from it, how it resonated with them, how it made them feel. So not just audience to audience, but also audience to filmmaker and vice versa. So that's the idea of the virtual lobby.
That's so interesting because, I don't know if there are any cinema puritans out there, but to me, the concept of talking or interacting with your phone whilst watching a movie would drive me crazy. So,
totally. Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's a no-no, right? But that's in the real world. In a virtual world, that's not the case.
But the virtual world is the real world. If I'm live, like I've watched somebody live tweet their reactions to a film, right? My question is, you're not really watching if you're talking. You can't focus on two things at the same time. So so here's the thing. So I get what you're doing, and it's really innovative and really cool. And I think part of this virtual, the conversation that we're having, the larger concept is our film festival is about to become Blockbuster, right? Like, is the live event about to become something that, over a period of time, over a year? Now, I obviously don't think that they are, but that's sort of the question we're asking is like, are live events, because we need theaters. We need theaters, and theaters need to exist off festival time. And there's no city in the world that has film festivals year-round, apart from maybe like 2 or 3. So these theaters need to be able to show films throughout the rest of the year. And they've been hard hit through the pandemic, and a lot of theaters in Toronto have closed down. And so that just creates more scarcity. And I think that a lot of people are going to be going hybrid forever, and it'll probably allow people to select more films. I think that it is extremely forward thinking to be able to embrace a new model and to be able to adapt and to be able to give people something that maybe they don't know that they want yet, but once they interact with it enough, they will understand it. But at the same time, I do think that live events are really important, and I do hope that everyone on this panel and everyone watching will continue to frequent live events, will continue to run live events, and will continue to celebrate cinema in public. Because there's an article that was written, I think, in the 80s by Robert Putnam, and it's called Bowling Alone. And I mentioned it yesterday, and I'll mention it again today, that isolated, we become we die in a sense when we're isolated. It's when we come together as a community in person that we can truly, truly exist and feel the atmosphere and feel the vibrations of everybody around us. So I think that's a really important thing, and I hope that live events will be back really soon. Any parting words from everyone? We'll just unmute all the mics at the same time, and
just thank you so much for having us on the panel. Lovely to meet everybody, sort of virtually.
Let's all head out to Bahamas. Thanks for this, Robert. I appreciate it. It was great meeting everyone and chatting with you all.
A lot of people talked about the depression and the anxiety and all of this, but I think knowing that my colleagues are out there and we're all doing the same thing and we're taking risks and collaborating and learning at the same pace, it's been feeling like we are part of something much larger. We don't know where we're going right now, but I feel that we're colleagues that have persevered, and there's people who just closed their festival or who's canceled their festival. And I think it's kind of unfortunate to see that, because, as you said, you know, we have spotlighted ourselves, you know, and Pendance Film Festival, and it's great that you are in existence, because we're always looking for new voices and new festivals. It's not about you being 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, 18 years old, you know, festival. Industry wants to see new initiatives, and I could be in existence for 18 years where you could come up with something and it just catapults you to being the most innovative festival. So I think that taking risks and being expressive and just being in tuned and looking for new voices is the only thing that keeps me going.
Yeah, and you know, I think that this is a really important time for all of us to think about how hard this has been for filmmakers, right? And this has been hard. You know, a lot of these people, they had films that were ready to go to festival circuits, and they've been dreaming about Cannes, Sundance, Berlinale, and they finally maybe get into one of those festivals, and it's, you know, it's not the same. It's socially distanced, or it's not happening live, and you know, it's a tough time to be a filmmaker, I think. And you know, one of the things that was mentioned earlier was geo-blocking. Now, filmmakers are notoriously in a desperate situation at times, especially when dealing with really good film festivals, is they don't feel like they can really say when they feel like something isn't working to their advantage. And I don't think that not geo-blocking films ever works to someone's advantage, because as much as you can get more views, you can also get those views by releasing your film on Vimeo, frankly, and you can get those views afterwards. In fact, I think having it geo-blocked to a particular territory helps that filmmaker still have access to other film festivals that would otherwise disqualify it. Consider what happened with Locarno Film Festival, right? I mean, they went worldwide and they picked great films every year, and a lot of those filmmakers were crying, right? Because they couldn't get out of it. Because then in the contract with Locarno, it says you have to play if you're selected. They couldn't even pull out, and they just went worldwide, lost their rights to every other film festival. Sure, they got a lot of views. Locarno sold a lot of tickets, but at what expense, right? Because every film festival has a market, and those markets are full of people. They're full of publicists. They're full of media. They're full of a lot of people that, when you eventually do take this film to the next level, which is theatrical distribution, etc., those people are going to come in handy. And then to lose all of that for one festival, it's just not worth it. So to any filmmakers out there who are dealing with film festivals that are, you know, insisting, not even giving you the option to geo-block, I would strongly suggest, just my personal opinion, don't do it. Anyone else have an opinion on this? Please, I don't want to speak over anyone. So.
Completely agree.
No, you're right. I mean, as festivals, we need to give the filmmaker the option for that. Absolutely, we shouldn't be taking away their right to showcase their art other places.
Marcin?
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's just the matter of smart festival strategy and having a plan, you know, and somehow, you know, like I think of choice. I mean, you can do, you know, this or that. I mean, I don't mind that people choosing, but I think they should have a choice.
Yeah, for sure. And we've always been Edmonton Short Film Festival. We're a small little regional film festival, so we just want to stay within our own little region, right? Within Alberta based.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I completely agree. I mean, I want filmmakers to be able to get to as many film festivals as they can. It's valuable for their career.
Absolutely. Leslie?
I'm on the fence, really.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think that options, of course, are important, but then with a film festival that's lasting for 4 days, I don't think hundreds of thousands of people are going to be watching that film, which takes them out of, you know, competition or to take them out of eligibility?
Yeah, so I think it doesn't even matter if one person from Greece watches your film if your film was technically available in Greece, right? So what I would suggest to any festival directors watching, and honestly, I'm not some massive expert on this, and I've just researched it for my own perspective. It's if you insist on having people from outside the country, watch it, either they're filmmakers, their press, their sponsors, whatever. Talk to the filmmakers in advance, whitelist the pass. Eventive makes it easy. Apparently, Filmocracy, you can do it as well. If you insist on having, journalists from Hollywood, etc., and maybe they can't travel because of the pandemic, whitelist the pass, get them a press pass, get them to attend the thing. But at the very least, the film was not publicly available. And then the other thing I would say is locking the film and encrypting it. So there's a reason why it's really difficult to, rip a film off of Netflix, but it's very easy to rip a film off of YouTube. And frankly, some people can rip films off of Netflix too. But the encryption software available to some of these platforms, it's not cheap for us as festival directors. This is not cheap. Features, shorts, etc., but your work is sacred. You definitely do not want to wake up tomorrow and find out that your world premiere is now on 17 different sites in Russia and Poland and everywhere in the world. And frankly, online film festivals do make it much easier to rip films than, say, if films run on DCP and they never ever touch, So I think that it's really important that festivals take care of these, things, to take care of filmmakers. And I think that it's important for filmmakers to also be aware of this. And I think this is a really important thing. And it's really awesome to talk with, 6 other film festival directors and, people in the industry who are really concerned about filmmakers and who are trying to do the right things. So thank you so much for coming on. It's been my honor. I know that we went an hour over, but I wouldn't have had it any other way. I'm so happy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for
Cheers, guys.
inviting.
Thank you so much. Bye, Leslie.
Thank you. I can't wait to
Bye-bye.
see you. Have a good festival, okay?
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Okay. Thank you.